That was about the best I knew him, was at the beginning, you know. After that, he started to get more and more outside of the small London circuit, and he was playing around the country and then going back to America. And I didn't really see him, you know, except for 6 months at a time, say. And then I got to know him less and less. But at the beginning, you know, when I was living in London, he used to come round to the flat a lot and stay there. We had a great time, really. I thought at first that, you know, his band, the Experience, I thought it was a bit of a mistake. I thought it was a hype, really. I felt from the first that he should have had a band, at least an American band, whether they were white or black, didn't matter, as long as they kind of knew the music they were playing. I felt that Chaz had really just picked up two free musicians who were in the rock field loosely. I think Mitch before that was playing with sort of Georgie Fame and more into a jazz thing. I don't know what Noel was doing, but I mean, it didn't take him long. Once Jimmy sort of introduced him to his music, they really got into it very quickly. But I thought at first that it could have been a better band or a bigger band, but it worked in the end, obviously. He'd been in England, I think, about a week, and they'd just got the Experience together. And he had the club on his feet, you know, from the word go. They couldn't believe it. It was just solid musicians, the whole club, you know. He was incredible. He really was. And he had such a... Like, he rehearsed 2 days, and he had, like, an hour and a half act of great songs, and the band was together. Still, he could have been up there on his own, you know, he didn't really need anybody else. He could play on his own and do it perfectly. The first time I saw him, I think he was wearing a suit. And he was combing his hair back in a sort of Tony Curtis, you know. And he was like, at first time I saw that gig, he was like, he couldn't keep his eyes out of the mirror, and he was touching his hair and getting it all right and everything. And he was like that all the time, really, just freaking out with his clothes, you know. I mean, if he hadn't come to London, I doubt if he would have really looked as good as he did, because as soon as he got here, he had velvet suits made and sort of lace shirts and things, you know. And it suited him so perfectly, and that's what London wanted right then, and he filled the gap perfectly. As far as I was concerned, he was in the same category. He was in the same calibre as people like Howlin' Wolf. So it was almost like walking up to Howlin' Wolf and saying, "Have you heard Muddy Waters' latest album? You know, who am I?" So, you know what I mean? So we didn't really talk about it like that at all, and I didn't actually know that he had a collection of records. Like I said earlier on, I felt that it was just part of him, you know. Like most blues singers, if you speak to them, never heard of the other blues singers around, you know, unless they're in the same town. And I felt that was the same with him. I know he loved Robert Johnson. That was one very strong bond we had in common, because I've always loved Robert Johnson, you know. But we certainly didn't discuss the music at length at any time. You know, we talked trivia, really.